So this is part 2 of making the request with the IRS. This involves putting the actual documents and paperwork all together, getting ready to submit to the IRS. My name is Sergio Melendez. I am an IRS tax expert, and I am here to expose IRS tax secrets. So this is part 2. Now you're going to get ready to actually put down the documents and write your request for the penalties to be forgiven for the IRS. That means your taxes are taken care of already, you have already fixed the problem, and you're already on some kind of solution. And right now you're going to get the reasons why you want to request the penalties from the IRS. So the IRS has these reasons. The IRS calls this a reasonable cause or excuses. Excuses why they should forgive the penalties, and there's plenty of them. So basically, if you have some kind of hardship in that particular year, the IRS would want to hear it, and they would want to see proof, and they're going to go ahead and forgive the penalties. Now, what kind of reasons can this be? They could be for many reasons. It could be for either medical hardship, it could be financial hardship, it could be for the death of a family member. It could be a mistake on the calculation of taxes. The mistake, you could have done them on yourself, or it could have been your CPA or your tax preparer that could have committed the error on your taxes. It also could have been the wrong advice given to you and provided to you in writing by the IRS themselves. That's pretty common. And of course, with what's going on in today's environment, if you have some kind of related COVID-19 related issues, either you got unemployed because of COVID-19, you got a family member that was sick because of COVID-19, you yourself got sick because of COVID-19, hell, your neighbor got, COVID-19, and also your whole block was on lockdown. All that is COVID-19 related issues. If it's some kind of other hardship that I didn't explain, then the IRS would want to hear it out. You're just supposed to explain it well and provide proof. So what if you don't have a reasonable excuse? Well, I got some good news as well. The IRS sometimes forgive your penalties with no excuse needed. Under these conditions, it's known as the First Time Penalty Abatement Request, known as FTA. Under these amounts, now you could still request it, but the IRS will check for a couple things. They'll check for compliance history, which means, are you all filed up within the last 3 years? Any type of associated penalties in the prior 3 years? Sometimes if you make the request, even if you filed late, if they see that you're all filed up, it'd still be worthwhile to file this penalty abatement. So now that you have the reasons why, you could either use one of the reasonable excuses or the first time penalty abatement. Now you have to begin putting all your evidence and the excuses down on paper. So one of the first things I recommend is maybe getting just a regular blank sheet of paper and even a pen, and just write a cover letter. Write it with your name, social security number, to whom it may concern, and then just write out your story in your own words. That is very powerful. If you want to use a computer, go ahead and use a computer and type it out in Microsoft Word. Same thing at the header, at least your name, address, social security number, to whom it may concern, and you have to make this specific to the tax year. So if you're going to request a penalty abatement, a reasonable excuse for 5 different years, you're going to need to create one of these for each of the years and make them each one specific to the year. So for example, if in 2018, there was an earthquake damage, it damaged your house, and you had some foundational issues. The hardship was you had to maybe rent a hotel for about 2 months. Meanwhile, they came and fixed the foundation and all that stuff. So you would just literally write it all out. Write your story in your own words. Doesn't have to be nothing technical. You don't have to code the IRC, the Internal Revenue Code. You don't need to code the IRM. None of that stuff. Just in your own words, what type of hardship you came up with. Just a regular sheet of paper, or type it out, that is good enough. Now, to make things a little bit more official, there is an IRS form to fill out. Now, the form is a little weird, it's a little quirky, but I do have a sample right below in the link below. The form is called the IRS Form 843. So the 843 is a bit technical. So you could just look at my sample that I filled out and kind of follow the sample. The one thing you want to make sure that it is important in there is that it has the right tax year, and it has a little box of what you to explain the hardship. And I understand if you have a really good story to explain your hardship, that box is not good enough. So in my sample in the 843, the only thing you have to write there is please see the attached documents, or please see the attached statement. and proof. That's it. So when the IRS sees the 843 and it says please see the attachment, and they see the letter that you wrote out your hand, now if you have horrible writing, type it out, because somebody will read it. And so the IRS, if you have horrible writing, if you write like a doctor, which by the way, I have horrible writing, they might just say, man, I can't read this. I bet this is a good story. So they might just toss it in the strainer and deny you the penalty abatement. So if you have horrible writing, type it out. To make sure you want to do is sign and date it in blue ink, because blue ink shows that it is an original statement, an original document from your words, and you just submitted it. You don't have to get it notarized or none of that stuff. So now that you have written your cover letter and fill out the form 843, it's time for you to gather some proof of whatever hardship you faced. However, if you're doing the first time penalty abatement, you don't have to have no proof. You don't even need the cover letter. You could just write in the statement on the 843 alone, under the provisions of the first time penalty abatement, I am requesting the penalties to be abated. That's it. Submit the 843, put in the mail, and that's good enough. But if you're requesting under a reasonable cause, a reasonable excuse, now you're going to need the proof. You're going to need proof of whatever it is you're claiming. I'll use a couple examples here for you. So if you're requesting a medical hardship for a particular tax year, for example, in 2018, let's say you got shot in the foot or something. Yeah, there was a drive-by shooting, there was some police action, and you happen to get shot in the leg. And let's say you're a handyman. So because you got shot in the leg, you couldn't work. Not only that, you're out of work for a whole year. So you filed your taxes late, and not only did you file late, you also you had a balance due you couldn't pay on time because you couldn't work. So under there, you had to maybe submit proof of maybe a police report that you got shot, your medical stay, surgeries, prescription drugs, all of that. Even maybe your bank statement showing that you had no deposits, you're out of work, and all that stuff. So that's the type of proof that because maybe one hardship might have led to another, and combined, you just couldn't file on time, you couldn't just pay on time, and that was your particular hardship. What other proof can you submit? Financial hardship. Let's say you got laid off, a company closed down, you got collected unemployment, and unemployment pays you nowhere near as much as you should have gotten paid. I understand right now with COVID-19, there's a little bit of federal relief funds that have boosted everybody's unemployment checks. Hell, it's even to the point people are earning more off unemployment than regular work. But anyway, let's say that this hardship occurred back in 2017, and back in 2017, you only earned the regular unemployment, which didn't cover crap. You got behind on car payments, your rent payment, you named it. You were behind on all kinds of bills. Maybe proof of all that stuff is financial hardship to show not only were you behind on all your private stuff, you're also behind on your own personal taxes. So the IRS will understand that is a great excuse, financial hardship, the reasons why you couldn't pay the taxes. However, now that you're on an installment plan, now that you have put a good solution in place, you are able now to pay the taxes in full. You're now filing on time, but back then you couldn't. So that's a good cause, and those are great proof. Even bank statements, proof of even if the landlord back then gave you the 3-day notice to pay rent or quit, which is maybe the first step of an eviction process, then that's great. Maybe the disconnect notices from the utility companies, even if you didn't pay your cell phone bill and that was disconnected, you switch numbers, all that is really great proof. The more proof, the better. The other proof is, and this is a hard one, folks, this is the death of a family member. Now, it can't be the death of a cousin or a neighbor or nothing like that. It has to be an immediate family member. So this is a spouse, a child, a parent. So, even if you write the statement, even if you say, back in 2016, unfortunately, I lost my spouse, I was in mourning, you would have to submit proof. So now that you've gathered all of your proof, you have filled out your cover letter, you have filled out Form 843, it's time for you to move on to Part 3 of the Penalty Forgiveness Plan for the IRS. So this concludes Part 2 of what to do to get your penalties forgiven from the IRS. It's time to move on to Part 3. If you like this video, click like and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.